Welcome to the TLI podcast, where technology, leadership, and innovation intersect. Hosted by Dr. Kelley, we bring you inspiring conversations with visionary alumni of Purdue Polytechnic's Department of Technology, Leadership, and Innovation. From mastering the art of human dynamics to shaping the future of technology, our graduates lead the way as project managers, corporate trainers, educators, and innovators. Join us as we explore their journeys, insights, and impact in a world where leadership is redefined every day.
Today, my guest is Greg Kelley. And Greg, first, I want to share that we're not related, even though we have the same last name, same spelling. And so I just want to make sure that was clear. You're not an uncle or brother.
No, we cleared that up. It is kind of unusual, but it's cool that we have the same last name, but not related.
And Greg, you lead our industrial advisory board for the department, and so that's how we've gotten to know one another in the last year. So Greg, I want to share a bio. I pulled some of this information off LinkedIn, and I'm going to go ahead and read that. And then if there's anything not accurate or you want to clarify, feel free. So hopefully you'll recognize yourself here. So says. Greg Kelley is a seasoned technology leader with over 20 years of experience driving innovation, digital transformation, and operational excellence in global organizations. Currently, you serve as the Senior Director of UX Design at PepsiCo, delivering impactful user experiences that align with the company's business objectives. Previously, Greg Kelley led project management for integrated business planning deployments across Europe, spearheading supply chain product solutions in partnerships with major retailers like Walmart. You directed global technology innovation, thus securing $10 million in funding for cutting-edge initiatives. Specifically, you've been acknowledged as having a proven track record managing cross-functioning teams, fostering executive stakeholder relationships, and transforming business intelligent capabilities. You're also known as a professional that excels at leveraging technology to deliver strategic value. Your prior experience also includes impact roles in Salaton. Am I saying that correctly? Sultan Incorporated, where you help reduce operations by over $60 million in a single quarter, collaborating with retail giants like Walmart and Target. So that's quite achievements over your time. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, thanks for the intro. And no, that's accurate. I did started my career, started my education at Purdue. I was an OLS grad in 2001. And that was a great jumping off point for me. I did start at Sultan, which was a smaller company, housewares products, so toaster ovens, coffee makers, and then our most well-known product, the George Foreman grill.
Oh, there you go.
But I spent 5 years there, and it was a great foundation because it was a small enough company where I got to learn end to end. I worked with every department, from customer service to marketing to sales, finance, and technology and IT. That group I worked very closely with, and that's ultimately kind of what I would say is the theme of my career, which has been supply chain and technology. And I've kind of like those two things as far as core competencies that have led me to where I am right now. But yeah, throughout my career, and being with PepsiCo for now over 17 years, it's been fantastic. Gotten to do a lot of different things, and currently leading up a UX design team. We build custom software applications internally for the company. And again, focused on the supply chain space. That's the team I'm leading up now. So it's been a great.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Great journey. Can you? I think sometimes students really don't know what major do I select, and when you think about leadership, right, particularly this title of organizational leadership, it's clear just in that short bio that I shared that you have many diverse experiences. You've worked globally. Yep. You've done a lot with technology. And so as somebody aspiring to be a leader in the future, Do you feel that that degree, really helped you through your pathway?
Absolutely.
And how would you advise a young person who wants to be a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the OLS degree for me, and then what is now TLI, it was a fantastic start for me. One of the things that really drew me to it was working together in teams. You work through, you got to work through problem solving together as a team, and you got to work with a lot of different personalities and people have different knowledge, or they come from different backgrounds. uh, OLS is really grounded in a lot of that, and I think that served me well, and probably even more so today than even when I first started. What I looked at it was is that I was going to develop my core competency over my career of what the actual like domain expertise, I guess you could call it, and like I was saying, supply chain and technology. That's what I gravitated towards, like as my career unfolded. But there's going to be things that are pretty universal, and throughout my career, and throughout just working with people, and that's going to be working with people, working in teams, all the stuff that I learned with that degree. And I wanted to make sure I was set up for success and knew what it meant to be a leader. And so, yeah, that really, I mean, it opened up a lot of doors for me because early on you have to start off with internships, and it helped me get my foot in the door. I knew
Mhm.
that if I got an opportunity, and so one of the things that also drew me to OLS was it had a high job placement rate, and I knew
Sure.
I needed to get a foot in the door. I needed to start somewhere, right? And so those early internships and early experiences, that is what I built upon for sure.
So those transitions, because you've taken quite a jump from one career to another, really.
Yeah.
Has did it change your leadership style? What were some of those things that you had to learn as you moved from maybe one phase of your
Yeah.
journey to another?
No, that's a great question. I think when I was just starting off, my leadership style was, all about just get things done. I don't know that I really had a style. I definitely, well, I mean, coming from Purdue, you knew and the degree, you knew how to motivate people. You don't yell and scream. You know how to motivate people in a way that sort of gets to, hey, we all have a goal to achieve here, and get people's buy-in and get their support. So I kind of had a little bit of that, understanding foundationally. I think over time, leading an analytics team to leading a technology innovation team to now leading a design team, it's different approaches. I mean, some differences, but I think the universal thing and the thing that I come back to a lot is um, is process. I know it's not like always the one that people expect me to say, but it's that when I understand the process of something, when I
Mhm.
understand that process, I can give my team clarity. Like
Mhm.
if I can describe what we do in a process, then I can give my team clarity about how we can improve it, right? And there's a great
Sure.
Edwards Deming quote where he says, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. And so I've been putting on, and like you mentioned, I've jumped to a lot of different roles and a lot of different things. And so you always got to start off in that really uncomfortable feeling of, and it is uncomfortable to not know. Maybe I can't describe this, what I'm doing as a process, but you've got to get there. And then as soon as you get there, then you can start to improve it. And I think that helps me to give my team clarity, our goals, how can we improve and how can we achieve good things together. So
So I'm going a little off script here. And by the way, the students have helped craft some of these questions that I'll be sharing with you. What do you think about, you're in a technology sector, and I don't know if you've ever reflected back on the fact that this organizational leadership degree is housed at the time it was a college of technology. Now it's,
yeah,
called the Polytechnic. I think that has a great advantage to it in many ways, over a business school, because we're specifically trying to prepare leaders in the technology sector. I don't know if
yeah,
you've ever thought about that and what your
yeah, it's
angle would
funny.
be on it.
I definitely didn't think about it at the time. I didn't make that connection at the time that I was in the School of Technology. I knew that that there was other degrees that were a little more technical in nature. And I would think about it sometimes early in my career. I was like, oh, well, should I have maybe gone into computer technology or some of these other ones that were a little more technical focused? But at the end of the day, I would continue to meet people throughout my career who kind of had a similar background as me, or and people that had more technical backgrounds. But at the end of the day, we're really trying to build a team, make that team perform and achieve some high goals, that we might have. And so getting the team to work together, I mean, I kept finding myself doing, and that's what we were learning and working through with the degree at OLS and everything. So I don't know that I knew that connection was there, but I think the one thing with technology in the space that I'm in, and especially when I was doing an innovation group or running that innovation group, is that you're trying to work your way through ambiguity, like really complex, complex problems, real ambiguous in terms of like, where do we start? What do we do? And so there's a lot of things that along the way, and I know you've incorporated them into the program of user-centered design thinking.
Absolutely.
Trying to uncover and get to what problem are we trying to solve. And then we bring in the technology piece. Having those tools as a way to manage technology is so helpful. And I can tell you that again and again and again, daily in my daily life today, it's still used and brought up quite frequently.
That's awesome. We often describe for others, even folks in the Polytechnic, what's this technology leadership and innovation department? And we always describe that, we're the human side of technology, right? So everything you described there, you talked about the technology, but a lot of it was very focused on the human beings that are helping to drive innovation, create new technology, manage new technology. And so that's what I've always loved to be able to describe what we do here. We have human resources development, and we have a STEM ed area, and then organizational leadership is the one we're featuring today. So let me ask you about this. So as when you were global head of technology innovation during 2020, in that I described a few minutes ago, it said you secured $10 million for new capabilities. How do you balance innovation and delivering business outcomes? And maybe you can kind of unpack that a little bit more for us. What was that opportunity?
Yeah, so I was leading a technology innovation team, which is similar to an R&D type group, but we were within the IT organization, looking at all of the emerging technologies that are out there. So just for the ones that came to mind is, of course, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, wearable devices, AR, VR is one, computer vision, just any new technology that was kind of coming out. Our team's job was to figure out, okay, what does this mean for PepsiCo? How could this help us? How could we use this technology? What use cases would it potentially be applied to help us? So it was an R&D type function. What my approach to it was that I wanted to make sure that I could commercialize something. I wanted to get something from the start of that funnel all the way to the end, and I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. Because I felt like if it stays with my team, then it's not going to be as valuable. We haven't moved it out of research R&D type thing to something that's commercial and having an impact. So to me, that was the big measure of success was for my team. That means that there's a lot of things in the funnel that kind of have to get killed at some point, or you can't keep putting time against them. You got to just move on. So if it didn't have that really line of sight to getting commercialized, we would have to move on from it. The big one that I talk about there and the big funding that we got is really around the Internet of Things or IoT capabilities and technology that, I'll just say, with all the owning SodaStream, we have vending machines everywhere. We have factories all over the place. there was just a real need for a capability that we could use to connect devices and getting data from that. So we put a lot of time and effort on that. But that means there's a lot of things we weren't focusing on, And
Sure.
so you can't please everybody, but we, in my mind, that was how we got a real win there with that one. And that
Nice.
has continued to move forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I love this question again from our students. So it says you've led some projects across Europe, Latin America, North America. How do you ensure effective leadership in culturally diverse teams? So typical student coming in with a good question here that's maybe
That's
not
great.
easy to answer.
That is a great one. Yeah, it is challenging, I'd say, working across different, you know, time zones. I worked a lot with a team in Europe last year, different holidays. I mean, they in Europe they pretty much take off the month of August, and so a lot of team members do that, but that's pretty common. So you got holidays that are different, and then cultural differences. Um, I would say that all that for us to be working together and across time zones, you got languages that are different and all that. I guess what I would say is I kind of come back to the things that actually everybody needs at the end of the day. And so if you're leading a team like that, everybody needs clarity about what are we trying to go do here. So giving them clarity about what's expected of them, what goal are we trying to achieve, and giving them prioritizing things for them, helping to remove barriers, and then I think those are the kind of universal things. I guess I would go back to there's still universal things about leading a team that you've got to provide no matter where they are in the world, and that's
Sure.
what I've learned.
Yeah, it seems to be those fundamental pieces are always still at play, regardless
Yeah.
of, we're at this decade, at this time period, it's still
Right.
still fundamental.
And the thing I would
S-
say also just is like I've got an opportunity just being with PepsiCo is to be able to travel to a lot of locations, and just embracing it. I've learned so much, and I love it's such a growth experience, both personal and professional, to go to those other locations, learn about cultures, try all the food. It's been
Yeah.
fantastic, growth experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think to me, there's nothing more that really generates the desire to learn and to gather information from others and their experiences, like traveling and being there face
Oh
to
yeah,
face. And so that's awesome
totally.
that your position allows you to do things like this. Um, good question for our Purdue students entering the workforce. They want to demonstrate leadership potential even in early entry level positions. And you even talked a little bit about that. You're just getting your foot in the door. How
Yeah.
are they able to demonstrate their leadership capabilities? What kind of advice would you give there?
Oh, yeah, I think when you're early on in your career, it's challenging, right? Because you're going to get assignments that maybe you don't get all the information about why you're doing it, but the more you can get about that, I think the more effective you can be, because if you really understand, I think, why somebody's asking you to go do some tasks or whatever it is early in your career, I would say is like, don't just try to complete that one task in the way that they said,
Yeah.
but find a more efficient way. Or if they're really trying to get, some certain information, like, can you find a better way? And I guess the story I would tell is back when I first started, my boss, who was a VP of operations, would have these printouts, these big, I'd have to go to this green bar printer and it would print out like hundreds of pages. And he would say, okay, we need to go through that and find, X, something, right? Something. And I would go through it, and then it just got to the point for me, I was like, well, there's got to be a way to put this into Excel, or, do this a little quicker. And so I
Yeah.
figured if I spend a little bit of time trying to figure that out, that's going to help me out,
That's
help
going to save
everybody
a
out.
lot.
Right. I know what we're trying to do. So that was just an example. I mean, and that was maybe pretty obvious one. I was like, well, I need to invest some time in figuring it out. So that's like an example of how I just would gravitated towards the systems, and I found out technology was a way to
There you
unlock
go.
a more efficient way to do something or whatever. So in my early career, I did a lot of that, like trying to find quicker ways to do things like that.
Perfect. That's awesome. If you were hiring a recent graduate for a leadership track role, what kind of qualities or experience would stand out to you?
I think I had mentioned internships and work experience. I know that you kind of it's kind of the chicken and egg, you got to get that first experience. So wherever you can get it or however you can get that, that's a huge step forward, just getting that first work experience and having something to demonstrate your ability to go out in the workforce and add value. So that's one thing I would say. Whenever I'm though, talking about that, I think I would say I like working at PepsiCo. Whenever I'm interviewing someone who's right out of college, I'm looking for a culture fit too. You want
Hmm.
to, you want to be in a company, an organization, and work for a team that is a fit culturally. There's a lot that's very, very
Sure.
different. Each company is a little different, or a thing that's going to get thrown your way. So you want to be a good fit there, because otherwise, it's just going to be uncomfortable, right? So I would say looking for that kind of that culture fit. What's the right organization for you to be in? I also look for someone who's got some passion for what they're doing.
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
really excited about it. Whether some people, I was always a very analytical person, so looking at data, crunching through numbers, I just gravitated. I had no problem doing that. I could do that.
Sure.
But that's not everybody's really interested in doing something like that. So you're going to do better at something you're passionate about or that you like. And so you want to make sure somebody likes what they're doing. The last thing I guess I would say is more, it's hard to, I guess, uncover it early in the career or somebody's experience, but you want to make sure someone has some resilience and ability to power through some
Sure.
challenges. So if
Sure.
they can describe that, I mean, um,
Mitch Daniels talked about grit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
grit,
there was a
yeah,
whole,
yeah,
piece that he wrote about that we
yeah,
need folks that have grit.
100%. And
Hmm.
it's because if I bring you into work on something and I'm going to put you into a situation, you're going to have to be working through some challenges. I can't always be there or whatever it is. I need to know that you can power through it and figure out, navigate, I guess you could say,
Sure.
your way through it. So that's another thing I think would say.
So that's perfect. So you mentioned about internships, and this is perfect timing, and it relates to another question that the students asked. So, we've got, I think it's another week or so, within the next 10 days, we're going to have a career fair, right? And so a lot of
Yeah.
times students are securing those internships at that event. I don't know if you reflect back on
Oh
that at
yeah.
all
Yeah.
at your time here at Purdue.
Yeah. Those are great.
And a student asked about networking, and that's kind of a scary thing for them. And if you had any tips and suggestions there, and so maybe unpack what you experienced here, and then how would you go about encouraging somebody their first career fair and they're walking up to a table. What's that look like?
Yeah, no, that's I do remember that. I'm actually grateful for those career fairs, and that's actually where I got a lot of my early experiences. So those were really helpful for me. I would say, yeah, networking can be a little intimidating, and I would count myself among those who definitely earlier in my career, I was probably a little more reluctant to network as the like the term, or maybe a little intimidated by it. But I would hear these stories, and it was either coming from, maybe my dad or one of his colleagues or somebody. They would just say how they got their start sometimes because they just were really, really curious about somebody's career, and they just set up a meeting to just learn more about it. And they didn't have any sort of like agenda other than to just learn about that person's career journey or how they did what they did. And I think you'll find if you are genuinely interested, you are genuinely doing that to learn more, that people are more than willing to support you and to help you out. And everybody loves to talk about themselves, right? So they're gonna, I think you're gonna find if you're not there just to, you don't have an agenda, you just want to learn. And I've I think just hear about how people get opportunities just that way. But if you don't sort of have that as an agenda and you really truly are just looking to learn, it can open up, you'll learn something, right? So
Sure.
it's a good place to start.
Probably a good lead-in, right, would be to walk up to one of those tables and say, "Tell me more about your company," and let that leader tell
Yes.
you about the company, and then ask good questions, right?
Ask good questions is a really good sort of thing to just sort of be thinking in your head, is just ask good questions. And then the more you're just genuinely curious and interested, the questions will come for
That's
sure.
awesome. Yeah, I love the story about Steven Spielberg. I don't know if you've heard this, but he would go into the back lots, of the movie directors, and got a used like briefcase. I think his dad gave him his briefcase or something, and he had all sorts of questions. And he went up to these directors and would be like, "Can you give me some advice?" And
Yeah.
so John Ford, the great Western director, he gives him 10 minutes, and John Ford wasn't the most nurturing kind of guy,
Yeah.
but tells Steven Spielberg, and his big message to him was, he pointed to some paintings and he said, "Show me where the horizon is. Where is that?" And of course, it changed on these paintings, and he's like, "Don't ever forget that. Change up your scenes." And of course, later, as they're doing this biography, they show Spielberg used this throughout all of his different movies. But
So cool.
13 years old and like has ambition, and then later goes on to do great things. So
That's so neat. Yeah.
yeah,
But it's
I think
stories
there's
like that. That's kind of what I meant, is like you hear enough stories like that that just, yeah, just being genuinely curious and asking questions, you'll learn so much.
absolutely
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, so here's a simple interview type exercise type question. The students asked if you had to describe leadership style in just a few words, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great one. I would say support first and foremost. I guess I would include a lot of things in that, because I genuinely care about my team. I want them to succeed. I want them to grow their careers. When they're working on stuff, I want to remove barriers for them. So giving them support and that's kind of first and foremost.
That's good. Yeah,
Another one would be I would say clarity. And that kind of goes back to something I was talking about with process or whatever it is. Like if I'm going to have a team working on something, I want to give them enough clarity. I can't give them all the answers, right? But I want enough clarity about what our goal is. What are we trying to achieve so that they can do that, right? I mean, if you don't know what's expected of you and you're just wandering around, I mean, it's not fair to anybody, right? So you got to give
right.
people clarity. And then I think maybe the last one would be focus or prioritization. I don't know what word you would use, but basically just of all the things out there, you got to give people some kind of priority and focus of what, if I've given you a goal, I know, but now what's the main thing we got to go do right now? We've all, I mean, throughout your career, you'll get in situations where it's just fire drill after fire drill after fire drill and everything's urgent. Well, not everything's urgent. And so you have to give, you have to give some prioritization and be the steady hand there to say, okay, we got 10 things, but let's start with this one, and
Sure.
just reassure the team, keep them all focused on that. And yes, the other nine, well, there may be some people upset or whatever it is, but you got to start, and then I think that to me, that's like something I have to do every day. Those things, I guess, is just giving my team those kind of things.
Sure. That's awesome. Um, so another question that I know was on here, and I know you and I've had conversation about this where I got to take a sabbatical some years ago, went out to the Silicon Valley, talked to a number of leaders in the technology sector, asked them, what is advice to lead for innovation and innovation change. And one of the key themes, and it's actually a question from the student, is about failure and using failure as a form of education, really, if you will.
Yeah.
Learning how to learn from those failed experiences. Can you share your thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, no, that's I mean, I'll tell you, it's so true. You learn a lot more from the failures or the things that don't go right than you do from the things that go really well. When I was, again, I would go back to the experience I had on running the innovation team, where, yeah, not everything's going to make it through that funnel, and we would invest a lot of time and energy in something. Sometimes you really fall in love with it, that idea or that concept or that way to solve the problem or whatever it is, but it doesn't move forward, and it can be, I guess, you could say somewhat heartbreaking. But that's also something that you go, okay, well, what could we have done differently? Or maybe I had a blind spot there, didn't realize, this thing or that thing that I should have considered. But we would always, it felt like, incorporate that learning in the next go around. Okay, well, we don't want that one to end up in the graveyard again. So how are we gonna learn from that, guys? Like,
Yeah.
so, but that kind of comes back to the resiliency and stuff that I'd mentioned, because you're gonna have setbacks, you're gonna have things that don't go as planned, and that's going to happen. And not like might happen, like it's going to happen. So it's just a
Sure.
matter of how you react to it and how you're gonna respond to it. And so the people that can just get right back up and come right back at it, and that's it's going to serve you well. So
I think it's kind of fun to look back, and we got a great question here about looking back. And if you were able to tell your former self some advice,
yeah.
now that you know what you know, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I don't have any really regrets, so I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't alarm myself, younger self. I guess the only thing I would say, is maybe when you're younger, take risks, take more risk. I probably would say something like along that. And then also just trust yourself, trust your gut, trust your instincts. There's maybe times when I was a little younger that I didn't trust whatever I thought or whatever, and maybe
Sure.
it was my gut. My gut was right, or what I was thinking was right, or was the right thing to do. So, but that, I don't really have any regrets or anything. So I don't know. There's nothing really major there, I would
Sure.
say.
Sure. How about and we'll close with this. How about favorite Purdue memory?
Oh, wow. So many great friendships that I made at Purdue. Living on campus, being able to just walk into classes. That those were, just the whole vibe on campus, I guess, is
Mhm.
just being a part of the university. Definitely the football games. With the time that I was there, Drew Brees was our quarterback, so we had so much good football. So I would say it's definitely got to be around, the football experience and those times with friends. So many fun memories there, and just being part of the university, just really feeling like part of something. It's great.
Sure. Sure. And so when I travel quite a bit, and just even vacations, with family, I often still wear some sort of Purdue,
Yes. Yeah.
shirt or whatever. And I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many alumni come up and talk to me. And I'm sure there's, other universities have good alumni too, but there's something special there Like they just have
Absolutely.
such fond memories. And most everyone that I talk to are very grateful about their education. They have no regrets, like you kind of shared. They have no
Absolutely.
regrets about what they did when they were at Purdue and the things they learned and how it helped them to get to the next level. And
Absolutely.
just like this example here today, that you take some time to talk with us. And so I want to thank you so much for
Oh,
that.
thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm very, very proud of being from Purdue. And it's as you described, I love wearing a Purdue shirt, and it's always surprises me. I could be at work and somebody I didn't even know that comes up to me and tells me they went to Purdue and I didn't even know it. And so I love that. It's great. I'm very, very proud to be from Purdue for sure.
That's awesome. Any closing comments, thoughts as we close?
Um, I mean, I guess I would just reiterate, yeah, I'm just very, very proud to be an alumni of Purdue. One thing I didn't mention was that in 2019, I also went back and got a master's degree as well. It's been great working with you and being industry advisory board and leading that up. It's been fantastic to be connected to the university. I would just say that I'm here to help. If somebody, is looking for advice, guidance, I always want to pay it forward. So if anything I can
Perfect.
do, please let me know.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and stop the recording.